right, it looks like we're about 30 seconds early, but we're going to go ahead and get this started. Thank you all for being here on the special call meeting combination Transportation Policy Board and TCC. Thank you so much for that. We're going to call the meeting to order today. And the first item of business is anyone wishing to make any public comments before we begin today's meeting of the Transportation Policy Board. Hearing none, we'll move on to our action items. First item is TBB 2025-012, amending the Transportation Improvement Program. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this public hearing for this particular item? Seeing none, we're going to move on, turn it over to Taylor Lee and kind of give us some input on this, and then we'll go up for a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. We have three TIPs today. This is incorporating just under $6 million of federal CMAQ funds into the TIP for our Williamson County TMA group, and then two for national NTA. Before I go through here, and I'll read the first TIP page in full, and then we also want to direct to your packet. We actually have two public comments as well for the national MTA projects that were received through GNRC.org/TIP. So make sure you read these as well when we go over these projects, just to make sure. So the first project we have is our vehicle replacement van pool for the Williamson County/TMA group. We are adding just over $330,000 of fiscal year 25 implementation CMAQ dollars. This is a TDOT award to the purchase of, I believe they referenced the actual letter as Toyota Sienna minivans for the van pool program. I'll say all these, or all three of these TIP projects, after these incorporated TIP, they'll be flexed to the Federal Transit Administration for use by each of these transit agencies to prevent these funds from being any kind of lapse in the future. So all three of these projects just set up front. I apologize. Our next project is our Dixon Transit Center. This project is adding $3.6 million of federal CMAQ funds to fiscal year 25. This is to revise the project scope to include language for a regional park and ride. So this is TDOT award was for a regional park and ride, and through a consultation with WeGo public transit, excuse me. So we're going to include it in this TIP project for that regional park and ride. Mike, I guess, Mike, would you like me to read the TIP comments or just have them referenced? Okay, so if you want to read that, the first for 2515, the public comments is right here. If you want to reference that for the Dixon Transit Center. And then for our next project, this is adding, incorporating a new project in the TIP. This is Davidson County Intersection Transit Emergency Vehicle Signal Priority Retrofit. So this amendment proposes to add the $2 million of fiscal 25 implementation CMAQ funds to retrofit one intersection with transit emergency vehicle signal priority and pedestrian infrastructure improvements within Davidson County. And like you said, for the second comment, we received the TIP list for this project for the 2025-17-187. And those are the three TIPs we have today.
Mr. Chairman. Any questions for Taylor about these projects? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion for TBB 2025-012. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments on this resolution? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That concludes our business under the Transportation Policy Board. So I'm going to turn it over to our chairman of the TCC to finish out the agenda and step away from my next meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next item of business on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from the July 9th, 2025 meeting of the Transportation Coordinating Committee. Has everybody had an opportunity to review those minutes? Do we have a motion? Were there any amendments or changes noted? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Hearing none, we will move on to the next item of business, which is informational items. I'll introduce GNRC staff to present on activities related to the update of the RTP. Daniel, are you going to be taking that?
All right, well, we are moving through the RTP. As you can see, the calendar update here, we are in August. I'll turn it over to Matthew in a second to talk about the round 2 of county workshops we did, but thank you all for participating in that. We are in the phase where we are sorting and correcting and understanding all the nitty-gritty details of your projects so that we can evaluate those through the regional lens and the regional priorities that the TCC and TPB have come up with. A reminder, as you see, we're starting our fiscal constraint now, continuing our evaluation. We will be bringing to the TCC and TPB in September kind of a final list of our evaluation, the ranked list. So my constant call is if you want to talk about any of your projects, sort out any details, correct anything, now is the time. Get in touch with us. Matthew, you want to talk about the county workshops?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, everyone. So over the last 2 weeks, we did our second round of county workshops for the regional transportation plan update. So that was a detailed meeting with staff from each of the counties groups together to review the preliminary evaluation results for all of the projects that were submitted in the regional transportation plan. So for the next few weeks following that, thank you everyone again for that participation. We are working internally and both with you to make any last changes based on those evaluation results and feedback we've received. So things like any missing data, we found a few projects that scored lower than expected, and when we dug into them, we found that there was data missing. So we're working with you all to help correct that. Adding any projects to make sure we're getting everything into the tip from the last tip, any last minute mapping adjustments or any clarification of scope. Or any duplication of projects. We're doing all of those now. So a lot of you have already been in constant communication with us with emails or calls. Probably in the next week or two, there will be additional communication just to make sure we're getting those updated. As Daniel mentioned, we will be moving into August, September, the final list, the prioritized project list to talk about County Workshop 3. And that's all to say in the next few weeks, that is really the time. If you have any last projects, any last tweaks, now is the time to get that in. Moving forward, we're going to be onto that final evaluation list. So that is what I have. I'll hand it back to Daniel if there's anything else.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. One other thing I wanted to call out, and this is about halfway through your packet, under the agenda item 5A, 3 links that are handy information from you for you. You can look at our current 2045 RTP, the interactive database of candidate projects. This is where we are updating everything. That's where you can check to see if your project is looking accurately, it's supposed to, and our regional growth forecasts. So take a look at those. Let us know if you have questions on it. Back to you, Jerry.
Any questions for staff? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next informational item on the agenda, transportation asset management analysis. And I'll ask Daniel to introduce our consultant partners over at Kinley Horn.
Yeah, I want to introduce Kevin Tilbury. He's one of our partners at Kinley Horn. They're working on several task orders for us, but this one in particular is going to help us to do the fiscally constrained portion of our plan, understanding our asset management, bridges, and pavement conditions, but also hopefully give you some tools that you can use throughout the region in your local communities. So I will let him take the floor. You want to use the podium or?
I'll just stand.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll work.
Back here.
Hey, thanks, and good morning, everyone. So I know that asset management isn't the sexiest topic, but it is very, I hope we'll demonstrate it is very important. It's very relevant. So I thought that I would start by asking everyone a question, or maybe a couple of questions. How many of you have kids that are driving age, that drive their own cars? All right, several of you. Do you find yourself constantly reminding them that they need to change the oil on their car? Right. And so thankfully, after 8 or 10 years of nagging my kids, they finally have figured it out, but it's probably because I paid for it. But why? I mean, what's the argument? Why do we change the oil regularly on our car? What happens if you don't? Right.
The light comes on.
How much does it cost to replace an engine? How much does it cost to replace an engine?
$1,000.
A lot of money, yes. I hope to never find out. Thousands of dollars. How much does it cost to change your oil?
$50.
Okay, so that is our argument for regular maintenance. We can spend a little bit on a regular basis, or we can spend a heck of a lot in the future. And that's the same principle that applies to our transportation infrastructure as well. And this is just an example. The numbers are a little bit old, but I think that the idea is still relevant, is that if we spend a little less money regularly to maintain our roads, we can avoid having to do a complete rebuild in the future that costs millions of dollars. And this is just the cost per lane mile of an arterial to either, resurface regularly or to do a full reconstruction down the road because you didn't do regular maintenance. So that's what I'm going to talk to you all about today is this is just an update. So this is ongoing work, but we thought now is a good checkpoint just to let you know what we've been up to. Today, we're going to talk about structures and we're going to talk about pavement, and then we'll end and we'll come back probably towards the end of the year with some more information. We'll get to that in a minute. So we'll start with structures. How many in our 7-county MPO area, anyone want to take a guess at the number of bridges that we have in our 7-county MPO area? Any guesses? I'm just going to throw out a number.
700,000.
Close. You're close. There are just under 1,700 bridges in our 7 MPO area. That's a lot. That to me, that's a lot of infrastructure. And then when you combine it with culverts, you're talking about over 3,200 structures that have to be maintained in good repair. And so that's one of the items that we looked at in asset management is bridges and culverts. So of those 3,200 structures, a little over 43% are owned by the state. And then most of the rest are either owned by counties or cities within the region. So that's a pretty big number, and the ownership is, pretty evenly distributed. We're starting to get some age on our structures. So about half of the structures, bridges and culverts, are more than 45 years old now. So they've been around for a while, and the average age is about 48 years. So the older the structure gets, the more critical it is to provide regular maintenance. So right now you're probably asking, Kevin, that's great. What condition are our bridges in? So I'm glad you asked. We've got a rating system on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, and then 1 being the worst, near failing condition for each of our structures. And so that data is maintained on a regular basis, and it's reported through the National Bridge Inventory. So we were able to get that data and do an analysis for bridges in our MPO area. So this is what we're looking at now. These are, so a little under half of the bridges are what's considered good condition. So we don't need to do anything. And then about 43% say, okay, they're approaching critical condition. We need to start thinking about regular maintenance. Then about 8% are in poor condition that they require immediate attention. And then our culverts are in a little bit better shape because they're not quite as difficult to maintain. So if we look at it in terms of ownership, the state's doing a little better than our city and county partners. About half of the bridges are in good condition, and then a little less than that in the county and city. And really, the number that we're most interested in is that red number at the top. So all 3 entities are just under 10%, 8 for the state, and then 8 or 9 for the city or county. So we did this work back in 2018 as well. So we can start to track trends and condition. And so unfortunately, we're not quite trending in the right direction in bridges. So we were right at about 50% good and 6% poor back in 2018. And then looking at the 2024 data for bridges, we've gone down just a little bit. So we're 8% in poor condition and 48% in good condition. Bridges have culverts have held a little more steady in terms of poor. So only 1% were rated poor versus 2% now. So they fared a little bit better, but that's still a trend to pay attention to. Now we are required as the MPO to through the Federal Highway Administration to adopt performance targets for assets, including bridges. And specifically, the measures that we're interested in are the percent of deck area in good condition and the percent of deck area in poor condition. And so we looked at the percentages relative to the last time we did this work. So the numbers are circled are what the feds are interested in. So we're right about 45% good and 7% poor. These are bridges, and I should have specified this. For the performance targets, we're specifically interested in bridges that are on the national highway system. That is the metric that we must track for our performance targets. And looking specifically at those bridges, about 45% of the deck area is in good condition and 7% is in poor condition. And that's a little bit of a downward trend from where we were looking at the 2018 data, the last time we did this. So just something to pay attention to. We're not necessarily trending in the right direction, but then something that we can track over time. So those are structures. I'm going to shift gears and talk about pavement too. That was one of the other important assets that we looked at. I won't ask you how many lane miles there are. So we look specifically at, what's that? Oh, well, of course you would know, Michael. Yes. Michael told me how many there are. But so we're specifically interested in what's called the Highway Performance Management System. And these are specifically roads for which we collect pavement data. So it's a subset of all streets. We only have data on what is collected. And that's about 3,900 lane miles of data. And it's mostly interstates and freeways. About half of it is either an interstate or a freeway, and then most of the rest are arterials. One of the things, and we'll talk more about this in a minute, is we are interested in understanding how many of you actually track this information locally. So do you know, does your city or county have a pavement management program? Do you know? Some of you do? Okay. That's good to know, because that's one of the things that we're going to ask of you all is we're going to do an inventory later this year, who's doing what and how much data you have. So we'll put a bookmark to that, come back to it. So there's much like bridges, we have a rating system for roads as well. It works in reverse. So in the case of roads, a higher number is bad. It's called the International Roughness Index, which is the metric that the federal government uses. So anything that's greater than 170 is considered poor. And that just simply means that, the pavement is in worse shape. You sort of see potholes, breaks in the pavement, all that sort of stuff. And then anything 95 with a score of 95 or less is considered good. So this is where we stack up currently. Our interstates are generally in better shape than the rest of the system. Only about 1% are considered poor, and about 90% are considered good, and then about 3/4 of all roads are considered good, and about 4% are considered poor. Generally speaking, I think we're at least on the roads that are measured and tracked, we're in relatively good shape. So we actually have data going back to 2008 for pavement, and so we're able to track that trend over time as well. And as you can see, we're sort of holding steady on interstates, and we're actually on the roadway system as a whole, we're actually doing a little bit better. We're trending in a positive direction, unlike structures. So that's a good thing. And then if you're curious about what this looks like spatially, this is a map of where we track the data. You can see a lot of the poor pavement condition is kind of tracked in the center where we have the most BMT. And so that was going to deteriorate the pavement more quickly, of course. And so it tends to be more concentrated in some of the higher traffic areas. Much like bridges, we have performance targets for pavement as well. And it also is on the national highway system. It's interstates and non-interstate NHS roads that are in good and poor condition, the percentage. And so we're tracking, I think, in a pretty good direction. Interstates, we're holding steady, which is great. And then we're actually doing a little better than we did in 2016 on the non-interstate sections of the national highway system. So I think we're in pretty good shape there. So that's a snapshot of where we are in the process. We'll come back probably towards the end of the year with some more information. We're going to shift gears and look to the future and understand how much is it going to cost us to maintain all of our bridges and pavement and structures and keep it in a state of good repair. And spoiler alert, it's a lot of money, but we'll have that information. We're also, so when we talk about transportation infrastructure, it's not just bridges and roads. It's also bicycle and pedestrian facilities and transit as well. And so when we come back to you again, we'll have more information on some of the other modes as well, and what it's going to cost to maintain those facilities as well, which I think will be really interesting. And then finally, the other item, and this is really important, I mentioned that we're curious to know about your practices. So we're going to deploy a survey in the next couple of weeks to each of you to understand your current pavement management practices. And also we're going to ask about how you maintain and operate your signal systems as well. And so please make it a priority to complete, because we'd love to be able to provide a regional snapshot the next time we come back in terms of, who's doing what and how much money we're spending as a region on maintenance. So that's the update. I guess, do we have time for questions? You want to? All right, any questions? Anything you'd like to see the next time we present that we didn't show today?
I'd say as they're thinking about how to answer that question, Kevin, there are 26,000 lane miles across the 7-county area, more than that today. That's enough if you stretch them out in a straight line to circle the globe at the equator, or to reach 10% of the way to the moon. So a lot of
Yep, that's a lot. And every lane mile we build is more maintenance liability too. Yeah. Yeah, Jonathan.
One of the other metrics that's looked at with bridge inspections is functional obsolescence. Is that something y'all look at too, or is it just strictly condition?
We track to the federal performance measures, but if you're interested in that, that's information that we have for sure. So we could, the next time we come back, we can present information on that as well.
Okay, yeah, that'd be interesting to see that as a side.
Yep, like for bridge replacement and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Okay,
To see if they kind of match up.
in terms of how are we tracking?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
A lot of the information you'll be getting from us at the local level is going to be a lot of local roads that aren't, functionally classified and that kind of thing. Are you guys going to be, how much of that is going to be useful to what you guys are doing?
That's specifically what we're interested in, because I think, while, the MPO isn't necessarily responsible for, having purview over those roads per se, it's still, it's still public infrastructure that we're interested in understanding how well it's maintained and whether it's done on a regular basis or not. So yeah, that's
Great.
yeah, it'll be good information.
It's what the financial liability is for all of you in the state to maintain the local
Yeah.
road system.
Any other questions for Kevin? For GNRC staff? None? Thank
All
you,
right.
Kevin.
Thanks, everyone.
That concludes our informational items, unless, Michael, do y'all have anything else on that? That takes us down to regular reports. First report on the list is the Tennessee Department of Transportation. Mr. Morrison, are you going to be giving that, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just a couple of things. I want to mention the statewide partnership. That application process is open to the end of the month. Just want to emphasize the coordination with the MPO to confirm that the project that you're submitting is part of the long-range plan. You can always coordinate with my office in planning or with the regional staff if you have questions. Important. We get a lot of calls, requests about helping with cost estimates and things like that. So any of those types of things that y'all want to or need to us to coordinate on, talk about, we're glad to help you all with that process. Obviously, there's a lot of factors that go into play on these projects. It's not just how much money you're bringing to the table. It's a lot of things like project readiness and just a whole lot of factors there. And so we just I'll prepare your applications. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And I'll just stop there for now. Is there any questions on the statewide partnership? You should have all the information that was sent out to you all. But again, if there's any questions now, we're here to help on that. Okay. The other thing, very popular has been our transportation planning grant program. Those will be coming out. So start thinking about your projects there. We'll be putting out call for applications on that as well. Likely by the end of the month, 1st of September, that will be coming out. We try to do about 20 to 25 of those across the state each year. Had a couple of great projects in the MPO last year. Nashville had a project as well as Lebanon, two really good projects. And we're going to start doing an evaluation. I think we're sitting at about 100 projects that we've done since the program started in 2015. So we're at 10 years. We're trying to put together a video highlighting 10 years success of the program. We're doing the continued evaluation on implementation from planning to implementation. From a planning standpoint myself, we like to see those things come to fruition. And we've had a lot of successes there with millions of dollars of build grants and other grants that took projects to the next level. So we're looking to, so we might be contacting you all that have had grants in the past just to go through whether you implemented some things locally or you received another grant. We're just trying to go back and evaluate that, but we've had a lot of successes across the state and hope to continue that. So that'll be open, and again, will be available if you have any questions on that. And that's all that I have, unless anybody has anything.
We had a question, Mayor.
Back to the SPP program. Out of curiosity, who all is applying? If your organization is going to apply to the SPP program, could you just raise your hand? Okay. And then the other question, I heard you say in every meeting, our board is obsessed with the local match. Like that is what we meet tomorrow, and that'll be kind of like our final public discussion before the application is filed. But they're obsessed with percentages. And so I'm also curious, because I'm terrified of percentages, if you have any feedback on that, or if there's any other feedback from the group, if it needs to be a percentage of the program or a hard dollar number. I also heard what you said, which it's not just the dollar, it's all the other components that go into it. But for some reason, we are obsessed with the percentage. And so I was hoping, and it might be something guidance after the fact, but if you had any feedback on that.
I wish it was that simple, but it's not. I mean, I have a list here that I can refer to, but I mean, I've got like 15 things that go into play. I mean, project readiness, as an example, it could get down to what funding availability is at the end, and this is how much we have, and this fits, whether that's in Nashville or Knoxville or anywhere else across the state. Again, the project readiness piece is a really, really important piece, and then the budget piece is kind of that next item. Those kind of work hand in hand. So we want to get a project that can fit into the 10-year plan that we can deliver within 10 years. And so, again, there's a lot more of those factors that fit in. So if you have an idea, again, Jay's here from the region, and we can, coordinate with you all, have that discussion on if you're unsure about project readiness, cost estimate of the overall project, kind of how that fits in the grand scheme of thing. And so you just need to let them know that there's a lot of factors go into play other than just, the funding option. Funding option is a big component, obviously. We don't have so many dollars available. So that's kind of the spiel there. Hopefully that helps. I know it'd be easier to say if we can put 20% towards this, but again, depending on what you're able to do. Other factors that are important, I had a discussion with a community yesterday, are, what kind of local coordination can you do to kind of get us, to a certain, to help move the project along, whether that's, utility coordinations and things like that. Just a lot of things that can come into play. And if they all kind of work together, it really improves the application.
Can I ask, I think I may add something to that about you said the percentage. Most of the projects we have in our tip, or most NOFOs you see for federal and state grants usually have a set in the NOFO and say exactly what percentage you'll need to contribute locally as part of the grant application. So I guess, Stacy, for the SPP, there is no set percentage essentially. So I think that's maybe the difference in the past they've had. I don't want to make too many assumptions, but in the past they've had contracts on before, pursuing a grant, there usually is that set percentage that maybe they're used to seeing that as well.
I think the mayor's trying to understand how CDOT going to evaluate the pledge from the community, because it's going to be very difficult for smaller communities to commit to a blank check based on a percentage of a price tag versus a hard cash commitment. Is there any guidance from the state in terms of how you're evaluating those pledges as part of the application process.
I'll just say, again, I'll just have to say that, I mean, it's a component of it, but it's not the final. The final decision is not that. Again, all these things have to come in a decision-making process. I know it's not as clear cut as we'd all like it to be, I'll be honest, but a lot of factors come into play.
Is everybody here doing a percentage? If you're submitting, are you doing a percentage? Or let me say this, if you're not doing a percentage, could you raise your hand?
Correct. We're just doing a lump sum dollar amount. In the past, we've done a lump sum dollar amount as well.
Y'all consider in-kind services as part of maybe a match?
Yeah, as a part of the application, that's part of it. The example I had yesterday was a project that the local jurisdiction, they've done a lot of the front end work, the P part of the project. And so we asked them to document that more than what else they can do to kind of help bring that project to the point where we can get the construction funding. So
So in-kind service could act as your match.
yes,
Perfect.
just explain that as a part of it. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for TDOT? These are some good ones. It's always good to see Stacy squirm a little bit. Thank you.
Hey, Stacy. So really what the main thing is, like on these, is whatever you can get done up front, that's all done. And that, so that then you can step in and take it from that point. That's going to be whatever that is. I mean, financially, it'll be whatever you put into it in the design or right-of-way acquisition or environmentals and things like that.
Right, and a lot of it has to do like how far along the project is, whether that project's been, we call them hybrids, where the locals have managed some earlier phases of the project, or we've been doing that, and there's not funding available for right of way or whatever. Again, that's a conversation we just need to have with project management to see what can be done or what we think's reasonable.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Morrison? Said his name, I want to recognize Mr. Norris here from Region 3. Appreciate y'all coming. I don't know if you have anything to add or, okay. All right, we'll move on to our next report then. Policy Board Chairs Report. Mike Callis has left us. I thought he did a fine job though. And then item C, Coordination Committee Chairs Report. I don't have much today other than just, I mentioned it the other day at the TPD meeting. Appreciate all the work that the staff is doing at GNRC as you guys make the rounds and get input on the long range plan update. It's a lot of heavy lifting goes into that. I recognize that it does. We appreciate y'all. And staff report, Daniel.
I'll turn it over to Taylor for a quick mention of the tip status.
Unfortunately, there's no major update from last month, only because, not because there hasn't been obligations, but typically we get the report in that first week of the month, the first or second week of the month, the actual obligations the previous month. So we just haven't gotten the report so far. So we'll see the updates in September TCC and TPP. So same one we had, unfortunately, the end of, I guess, 2 weeks ago, essentially 3 weeks ago. So no major update there, but should see one here. Hopefully in the coming days from TDOT. They're usually pretty consistent, just around that 7th, 8th day of the month.
Thank you, Taylor. Upcoming meetings, August 20th, Regional Council. Michael, do you want to talk?
Yeah, we've got a really good agenda for you all in this room a couple of weeks from now, August 20th, for our regional council body meeting. We're going to put a spotlight on the environmental planning that we're doing across Middle Tennessee and share with you some of the analysis that we've done within the watersheds across Middle Tennessee to position some impaired streams and other water bodies for federal grants for remediation. So there's always opportunities for you to position your local watersheds for that type of analysis. You'll get to learn a little bit more about what we do for those watershed-based plans. We'll also give you an update and maybe ask for some additional help from each of you regarding the brownfields inventory that we're developing for the region for submission to TDEC, to position your local properties for subsequent grants from TDEC's BRAG program, which is the Brownfield Redevelopment Area Grant program, to help you investigate the contaminants that might be on site, but ultimately to get those cleaned up and redeveloped or into long-term conservation. And then the third thing we'll brief you on is an update on where we are with the EPA-funded emissions reduction strategy that we're putting together for Middle Tennessee to identify opportunities for not only reducing emissions across the sectors like transportation and solid waste and buildings and energy and ag, but just programs and initiatives that we can pursue as local governments to help bring down costs for our residents and businesses related to energy and other emissions producing behaviors that we have across Middle Tennessee. So a really good look at what we're doing on the environmental front. I think a lot of it will be very relevant to your local planning as well as grant opportunities that would follow suit as we wrap up those planning efforts. I also want to mention we do have a board of directors meeting in this room next Tuesday. That's a very small subset of the regional council. Each county has a representative to our board of directors. It's more of an operational group that works with our staff on our budget and our policies. But that is streaming online. So if you are interested in listening into the board of directors meeting, that is Tuesday. You can find that information online at gnrc.org. If you don't know if you're on the board of directors, then you're likely not. So no worries about feeling obligated to be at that meeting. I'll turn it back over to Daniel for a look at the September transportation related meetings.
Yep, so September is another typical Transportation Policy Board month, which means tip amendments. We'll have another slate of those for you. We will also continue to give you updates on the RTP activities and how we're working through our fiscal constraint, but the main highlight there is that we will bring to you the final evaluation lists of the projects for that meeting, for those meetings. And then back to Michael for some staffing updates.
Yeah, so I wanted to take the opportunity this morning to welcome Jennifer Badalato-Lawler to our team as our newest Director of Research and Analytics. She is occupying the seat vacated by Max Baker when he left for the city of Franklin. I think Max, maybe thumb more after the meeting. You're very welcome. That's for your 17 years of service to the organization. But Jennifer brings just a tremendous talent to our team, and I'm looking forward to you getting to know her. But while we're talking about the research team, I thought I'd go ahead and make sure that you remember the other talented individuals on the team. And I didn't look back to see who's in the room today, but we have Ashley Glasscock, who's our GIS spatial analyst lead on the team, and we've got Hannah. Hannah's a new member. She joined our team last week. She's going to be working with Ashley in support of our GIS and spatial analysis work across the region. Is Joanna in the room? Joanna McCall, who you've all seen at these meetings. She's our socioeconomic data lead. So any information that you need out of us in terms of socioeconomic information or workforce or labor data, Joanna is your go-to on that. And then Harry, are you in the room, Harry? Harry Ono, probably Wanata, is our modeling lead. He's the one. I often have the privilege of presenting the heart attack maps showing future year congestion, but those are coming from the great work that Harry does in-house along with the consultant assistance that we get. And then Sim Williams, I don't think is in the room today, but he is our specialist. He's a GIS analyst, but specializes in satellite imagery, landside information, land cover analysis. And we're working on some really good predictive modeling for future, the impact of future land development will have on environmental assets across Middle Tennessee. So Jennifer, welcome to the team, and I can't wait for everybody to get to know you. Mr. Chair, that is the staff report.
Okay, thank you. Well, that takes us to our last item on the agenda. Before we adjourn, though, is there any additional business to come before the body? Questions or anything for staff? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second.